everybody at Young Public School.
Hello.
My name's Karen from the Australian Museum and I'm joined by Mary from the Botanical Gardens today. We're very excited to be here for Dinosaur Day and the first time we've ever run a new session called Gondwana Garden.
Yeah, I'm excited, Karen.
So am I, because the Australian Museum and the Botanical Gardens have teamed up because one thing that we're good at here at the Australian Museum is dinosaurs and fossils, and the gardens are great at
plants.
So it is perfect combination to really recreate what was happening millions of years ago in the time of Gondwana. And we're really lucky today that we've got a special guest that's going to join us for a few moments. So I'm going to get her ready. A very special guest from Gondwana, and Mary is going to start off with us today.
Okay, well,
I'll be back.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. So once, a long time ago, we had Australia all joined to other continents, making a larger continent called Gondwana. And that's why we've called this special lesson today Gondwana Garden, because we're going to talk about the environments that were around that time, back in the late Cretaceous, that the dinosaurs lived in. We're talking about Australian dinosaurs today, okay? So Australia was all joined together with other continents like Africa and like Antarctica, and it was a totally different place. Lots of different gardens and plants as well. So I think maybe we're going to meet our guest. I think we've got our special Gondwanan guest coming on camera. Oh, look who we've got. Oh.
So everyone, please turn your microphone on and say, hello, Winnie. And give her a great dinosaur roar. Everyone at Young, do a dinosaur roar for Winnie.
Can't hear you yet. Come on. Maybe you need your microphone on. Oh, that's fabulous. Great.
That's what we like to see.
Oh.
So we're very lucky today to have Winnie join us just for a little while, because Winnie would have been roaming around during the time of Gondwana.
Yeah.
And we've got some fabulous food here. So Mary is going to tempt Winnie with some food.
Okay, would you like some food, Winnie? Okay, all right. So first of all, I've got a Cycad leaf. Does that sound yummy? Oh, having a good chew there. Oh my goodness. So, oh wow, yeah, I think Winnie likes this. Yeah, so Cycads, we still have Cycads today, but they were background back then as well. So we have fossil evidence to tell us that we had Cycads. Fabulous, fabulous. Oh, I think Winnie really liked that. Beautiful. Would you like to try something else, Winnie? Oh, you would. Okay, so I've got this special ancient plant here called a Wollemi pine, okay? So would you like to try some leaves of that? Oh, look at that. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Yum, yum. Oh, so perhaps Winnie liked to eat Wollemi pines. They're practically extinct, you know. There's hardly any left. Be careful, be careful. Come on, Winnie. Not many left of those. Okay, special treat today. We've got the bark of the Wollemi pine, which we like to call chocolate crackle bark. Would you like to try that? Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Yum, yum, yum. Oh, I don't know if I'd like to eat bark, but apparently Winnie's really all going for it here. Beautiful. Chew it up. Oh, I think you've got nice big teeth. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, thanks very much, Winnie. Oh, beautiful.
Well, Winnie, thank you so much for coming and joining us. We're just going to go up to the camera and show them your teeth on the way out. You can open you up. Here we go. Oh, too close. There we go. We can see your teeth at the side there. Here we go. Those fabulous teeth. So Winnie was a vegetarian. She needed these blade-like teeth to help chew up this amazing food. And if we step back a little bit, we can also show Winnie's amazing tummy as well. So we're just going to move back. Oh, here we go. Oh,
watch that tail,
and we can see this amazing chest and stomach here that would have been helping her digest all of her food. So we're just going to go into our big wide shot, and Winnie can say goodbye and give us a big roar. So everyone, give Winnie a big roar goodbye. Say thanks for joining us, Winnie. Thank you so much. Oh, big roar. Great work, Winnie. Okay, let's go this way.
Oh, that
Great
was
work.
really fun. Oh, Winnie's so friendly, and oh gosh, she's certainly very hungry as well. So off she goes. I think she might have a little rest. She might have her crunch and sit now. Hopefully you've already had yours. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit more about Gondwana and how Australia was part of this larger continent. So we have fossils that actually show us evidence that these continents were all joined together once a long time ago. So perhaps I'd like to show you this particular fossil here, which is called Glossopteris, okay? So if I bring this up nice and close to the camera, you will see here that we've got this fossil fern that once covered all of Gondwana. So not only did it cover our continent of Australia, but it also covered the continent of Antarctica, India, South Africa, and I think there might be another continent I can't think of at the moment. But all these continents having this particular Glossopteris fossil, and it kind of looks like gum leaves, doesn't it? It doesn't look much like a fern. This is a really beautiful fossil here. So this would be at least 165 million years old. And what we've got here is like an impression of the leaves that were once here. So we are a country that is very rich in coal resources. So countries like Australia that have that brown coal, a lot of the coal is actually fossilised Glossopteris, okay? And once, a long time ago, there was an explorer called Scott. Has anyone heard of Scott, the explorer? No? Okay, so in the late 1800s, 1900s, he went on an expedition down to Antarctica, and he discovered with his group these fossils of Glossopteris, and that sent the science community alight because they'd never seen anything like it, because what they were saying from this evidence was that all those countries were linked together once. We're not linked to Antarctica anymore, are we, or Africa, but because these fossils tell us this information, they really blew the science community alight in the early 1900s, because they'd never thought of anything like that before. So yes, we've got that slide there now that South America, Africa, Antarctica, India and Australia were all joined together, and Glossopteris was found on each of those continents. And there were some dinosaur fossils found as well that were found on some of those continents, but the Glossopteris was found on all of them. And that's giving us the evidence that they were once linked together, which is really hard to think about it, isn't it? Imagine Australia in a totally different place, in an environment that's totally different today. Because is it hot at Young today? Hands up if you think if it's hot at Young, because it's hot in Sydney. Yeah. Well, back then, it would have been a much cooler climate and a lot more green than we have today. So out in Young, you get your gum trees, your cherry trees as well, I believe, but you've got your natural environment of the gum trees and everything else. Well, back then, ferns covering Australia give us a really different idea of what it was like. Okay, I think there's another slide to look at now. And this is of another fossil of a Carrie Pine. Okay, so we have evidence to tell us that these large pine trees, you will find Carrie Pines in Australia today. You'll find them in New Zealand, you'll find them in Indonesia, you'll find them in northern Queensland, but they're very similar to what these fossils are here, and that gives us evidence or information to tell us what that environment used to be like. Okay.
Next slide.
Oh, okay, yeah, so let's look at the next slide because I want you to count how many fish you can find there. Can you see any fish on those fossils?
Hands up when you think you've got an answer.
I've got one here just to add into it. See if you can see a fish on this one. So there's a fish just here.
So how many fish is that altogether, do you think, Mary? Has anyone got an idea at Young?
Anyone got an idea that want to answer? Maybe you've got an idea? Microphone on.
Give an answer. 6.
6. Okay. So, all right, let's see. So we've got, on this one, we've got 1. And then on the other one, down the bottom, we have a really big fish, that's 2. And then I think on the other fossil, we had another 2. So what have we got to? We've almost got 6, I think. Really good counting, everybody. Well done. So I think we've got another slide to try now, which is looking at the Wollemi pine, okay? So this is a tree that they actually thought was extinct. It was only found 21 years ago this year, okay? So 21 years ago, a national park ranger was in the Blue Mountains having a lovely canyon, when they climbed down the canyons, deep in the canyons, and he found these leaves on the ground and he took them back to Sydney. He actually left them in his backpack for a few weeks. And then he went over to the Botanic Gardens and thought, I might try and find out what these actually are. And they were really, really puzzled. Now, I've got a Wollemi pine just in front of me here. This is the one that Winnie was having a good chew of before. And what they ended up doing was they compared fossil evidence like this fossil that we just saw, and they looked at these leaves and saw that they were similar. And then they actually did some DNA testing. DNA is really complex stuff that's in all of us that gives us the makeup of how we look and how we are, okay? But plants have genetic material as well. And someone was running some genetic tests. Oh, here we are, lovely close-up of the Wollemi. And they found that the genetic information of the Wollemi pine was exactly the same as some fossil pollen of another fossil called Derwenthes. And that's when they worked out that they'd actually found an extinct plant, or a plant that they thought that was extinct. And now there is only 100 of these particular Wollemi pines growing in the wild, in the Blue Mountains, in a World Heritage Area that is in a location that is extremely secret. No one knows except the scientists and the rangers where it is, because they need to protect these plants from diseases and people pinching them. And so what they did was they took and they learnt how to grow these plants, okay? So down at our plant bank building at Mount Annan, at our botanic garden down there, they actually grow and research the Wollemi pine, and they can grow plants from cuttings. So if you take a cutting, a piece of this plant, and you grow it in special hormone material, you can actually grow a whole new plant. So they actually grow them from the cutting of the top here, and then they can grow more. So this was originally part of one of the 100 trees that are still left. So there's actually not many left and they are all very genetically similar. So there's not much what we call diversity. Does anyone know that word diversity? Does anyone know what it means? We got an answer? Well, what it means is that it's an actual variety, okay? So we call a diversity or biodiversity having a lot of plant material, animal material that is different helps environments survive. And that's why the Wollemi pine is actually critically endangered. So if they get a disease that wipes through those plants, then all is lost, except for the plant material that's grown at our nursery and our science centre at Mount Annan. This is the only way that we can preserve plants for the future, by understanding how they grow and researching them. So we're very lucky that scientists do that work, and perhaps you might be interested in doing that one day yourself. So I showed you before, there's some other things that the Wollemi pine has that is very interesting. So here I'm going to show you the bark, and it looks like chocolate crackles, doesn't it? In fact, Karen, I think I've got another specimen over there of the bark that is taken from a tree in the Wollemi National Park. So it's a little bit more faded, thank you, but you can see that's a lot the chocolate crackle bark, and this is just a model of what it looks like. Thanks very much. So that's really unusual bark. We're not really sure why the Wollemi pine has that. And then of course this is an example of a leaf from a Wollemi pine, and what you have here is a cone. So Wollemi pines aren't a flowering plant, they're actually a conifer, kind of like a Christmas tree, and they actually have cones on them that will be either female, which is this sort, or male cones which have a different longer shape. Okay, so maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. I think there might be a slide on the cones to look at.
I think the QR code.
Oh, okay, so I've got a code there. Ah, yes. I've got a code there that maybe if the teacher was lucky enough to get our Jurassic Garden app on one of their devices, did they actually succeed in doing that?
No, sorry.
That's all right. I've emailed those codes to you. So you can actually have a dinosaur visit your classroom. If you download the Jurassic Garden app, you will get a dinosaur there, and that dinosaur is an Australoventor dinosaur. And you can push a button there that will actually tell you a little bit about it, but it's a meat-eating dinosaur. So yeah, we might look at that slide next. So Karen, do you know much about the Australoventor? I think it's got claws by the look of it. It's a carnivore.
It certainly does. And so this is a dinosaur that's been found. Sorry, Mary, I'm just going to jump behind you from a place up here in Winton. And it's a new dinosaur. It's a carnivore. We can see that claw looks a lot like the Allosaurus claws and T-Rex claws, 10 centimetres long for just one of those claws. So it's considered to be a top predator. And we can see down the bottom there with the whole forearm with those claws on the edge that's been found up here at Winton. Now, this dinosaur's been given the nickname Banjo.
Oh.
Not sure, I don't know if it's going to be playing the banjo with those amazing claws. And it's an area up in Queensland that they've just found and identified 6 new species of dinosaurs over the last few years. So a really amazing and important fossil site in Australia. And yeah, Banjo is certainly one of the predators that would have been roaming around at the same time as Winnie the dinosaur would have been.
Yes, and I think that it was in an environment of pools and swamps and lakes and things like that. Yeah. So a lot
much
damper.
Wetter environment. So if we go to Winton now, it's quite an arid, classified as desert location. But back when in Gondwana, it was wet and it was damp, There would have been lots of vegetation, lots more water, and a really big variety of plants and animals that we don't see today. So going back in time and looking at our fossils, we also need to know what plants and other animals were around during that time to recreate that whole environment. So not an arid desert, it would have been quite a wet, damp and cooler place.
Oh, very interesting. I've learnt a lot. Thank you very much, Karen. That's great. So now we're going to talk about cycads, okay? So I've got some leaves here, and I think Winnie ate them, and I thought that was pretty amazing actually, because cycads are actually quite a toxic plant. So here I have a cycad leaf, and they're really large plants generally, and they have cones on them. They actually have female and male cones, okay? So this is part of a male cone, okay, and this will have the pollen in it, okay? And what will need to happen is for a cycad to reproduce, it will need a female cone as well. And you'll see on my diagram there that we've got a really big cone that's often in the centre of the cycad, and that's where you'll find the seed. And so they believe that a lot of the cycads are pollinated, fertilised, moving the pollen over to the larger female cone by bugs that are a little bit like weevils, and they crawl through and go from place to place. And I think that a very strong scent is emitted, and that attracts these bugs, and they go in there and they get the pollen and they're going over to the female cone, and that will get the seed. So it's really quite a miracle, because look how big and strong and tough those cones are. They look so different to what we know today in our flowering plants. If we were to say a rose or something like that, they look really, really different. So not a flowering plant, but a cone-bearing plant, okay? And then the next slide is going to talk about the cones of the Wollemi, and what we've got there is a female cone and a male cone, and they occur in this case on the same tree. So I don't think we've got any cones on this one, but this one I showed you before had a female cone on it as well. So the female cone has the seeds, the male cone has the pollen, and that's what happens is the pollen needs to fertilise the female cone to actually reproduce. Beautiful. Okay. Now the next slide, I'm not really sure a lot about it, but I think it's about reconstructing dinosaurs, and I reckon Karen knows a lot about that.
Well, I'll have a look at this one. So again, when we find dinosaur fossils or any fossils, we often don't find the full animal. So what we've got here is a dinosaur, one of the titanosaurs, which is just a big sauropod, and it's showing that we didn't find very much of it. We found, they're all pictures of the actual fossils that have been found and putting the location on the animal itself. So we've found some parts of the backbone, some of the tail, some of the foot bones, a little bit of the neck, and then a little bit of one of the shoulders and a bit of the pelvis. Now that is not very much, but it is enough for scientists to then work out how big it was and what kind of animal. So reptiles, their backbones all join in a ball and socket joint together. So if we find a bit of a vertebrae or a bit of the backbone with a ball and socket joint, we know that it's going to be from a reptile. Mammal vertebrae stack together, so if you can tell the difference when you find them. So you do need to do a lot of research and a lot of studying, and it is like doing puzzles and matching, but we don't find all the pieces, and that's where it can be difficult. But by looking at the size, so these vertebrae here are probably this big. So we know if we find something that large that it's not going to be a little goanna, that it's going to be a much bigger animal. And they're able to compare it to other dinosaurs that they find and compare the size and then work out how big it is in relation, so in comparison to another species. And that's sort of how they do it. They line them all up and go, oh, this is bigger than this one. And so if this animal we know is 20 metres long and this vertebrae is bigger, well, we know it's going to be larger than 20 metres If the vertebrae they found was smaller, then we know it's going to be smaller than 20 metres long. So there's a lot that scientists can do, even if they don't find the whole thing. So it can be really tricky. And I think we've got some other fossils on our next slide here.
Oh, yes, that's right. Do you know about those ones, Karen?
Well, hopefully when it comes up, I'll be able to have a closer look. I think we've got Mimmi there, don't we?
That's right, we do.
And I've actually got Mimmi just behind me here as well. So Mimmi is actually an ankylosaur. Now, an ankylosaur in North America are the dinosaurs with those big, heavy kind of hammers on the ends of their tails. Now, the Mimmis in Australia didn't have a tail like that. It was quite straight, lots of spines though. And again, Mimmi was found up in these areas of Queensland. There's actually a place called Mimmi, which is where it gets its name from. So the Mimmi, I'm on the wrong side of my Mimmi, is a relatively small dinosaur in comparison to, say, the one we saw previously, one of the titanosaurs, and in comparison to the Muttaburrasaurus. They're a short, squat dinosaur. We can see there spines along its tail and along either side of its armoured back. Quite a square head. Now, Mimmi is quite well known throughout the regions of Queensland. We do have a fair bit of fossil evidence. We can see on the slide that was up the fossils that they've found from Mimmi, as well as that beautiful reconstruction that they've done. Because Mimmi is quite a hard plated dinosaur, we're quite lucky about how much of the fossils have been preserved. And that can help. So we'll flick to the next slide.
Yes, so when you do get your dinosaur app going, the Jurassic Garden app, this will give you a, well, did we talk about what kind of dinosaur, do you remember what kind of dinosaur that Winnie was? Does anyone in the class want to tell me the name?
Very famous Australian dinosaur. Does anyone remember what kind of dinosaur she was?
What time?
We can't quite remember.
Ah!
Well, you know what? This is what we're here to talk about
That's
today,
right.
so we can help. So she is a Muttaburrasaurus. Now, I think it would be an excellent one for you guys to all learn how to say. So it's Muttaburrasaurus. Okay,
done.
great work. Now, all in one go. Muttaburrasaurus. Great work, guys. And one of the most famous, and certainly my favourite, of the Australian dinosaurs. So we've learned about a couple today. Australovenator, Muttaburrasaurus, Mimmi, the Titanosaurs, just to name a few so far.
Yeah, and what they're saying is that this dinosaur lived in the conifer forest, just like these fossils that I showed you before of this particular Carrie Pine. We say a big science word called Orocacea, and this is the family that the Wollemi pine in as well. So I think that's why Winnie liked it so much.
Absolutely.
Because she just really felt at home.
And also with the chocolate crackle bar.
Oh gosh.
As a bit of a dessert.
Oh yeah, would you like to eat chocolate crackle bark?
If I was a Muttaburrasaurus, I think I would.
Yeah, I think it is. Oh, they're keen. Fabulous,
Excellent.
fabulous. Okay. Yeah, so what we're going to encourage you now to do is to think of a way that you might be able to create your own dinosaur garden and what kind of plants you might like have in it. Can anyone think of some plants that they'd like to create for a dinosaur garden?
Yep.
A fern.
Fern.
Yeah, ferns definitely, because they really like water, they like the moist environments, and they're probably really delicious to eat as well. So yeah, that sounds really good. Any other plants that we can put in a dinosaur garden?
After that,
Bit
say
louder.
it louder.
A river.
A river. Beautiful. Having it near the river sounds really good. You were talking before about the Winton Trackway.
The Winton Trackway,
Well,
yeah.
Do you want to tell them a bit about that? Is that
I absolutely could. So The Winton Trackway, if you can just point onto here, Mary, our Winton Trackway is from this location. And it is a fossil site from up in Queensland that we talked about, that we've got the Australovenator, the Titanosaurs, Mimmi was found not far away, and also the Muttabuttasaurus. So lots of dinosaurs were found in this location. But remembering, as we said before, it's a dry, arid area now, but it wasn't 110 million years ago. So it was actually quite a wet forest location. And all animals need water to survive, so they need to drink. Doesn't matter if you're the tiniest dinosaur to the biggest predator, they all need to go to this water hole. And one of the most famous fossils from this area is actually called the Winton Trackway. Now, the Winton Trackway isn't big bones, it's actually footprints. So next time you're walking along a river or the beach, have a look at your footprints and have a look how many different footprints could be left. You could be walking with a friend, you could have a dog or a pet with you, or an adult, and all of those footprints will be different sizes. And that's just convenient located. Yeah. This is the Winton Trackway. So we can see all of those footprints in there, all of the different sizes are... Our tech guy is very excited because he's just pulled up this photo as we're speaking. We're really excited because this is exactly the thing. There's hundreds of dinosaur footprints in this one trackway. And you can see how dry it looks. This was actually the edge of a lake. And we had small dinosaurs, just bigger than a chicken size, all the way up to a really, really large sort of Giganotosaurus-sized predator. And what we can do is recreate this scene. So you can go back in time, everyone put your time travelling caps on, and go back in time 110 million years ago to this space in Winton. And you're a little dinosaur just having a drink. Now what's going to happen? You're having a little drink, you're just walking, and you and your herd of small dinosaurs have a drink and wander away. We've got your footprints. Now we don't know whether all the footprints happened in the space of a day, a week, but it was between the rain periods. So it may have been groups of people coming up and having a drink and going away again. And then we had a larger dinosaur called Winnie Puss, from Winton, of course.
Oh, okay.
Which was a dinosaur that had a footprint about the same size as your hand. Now we can tell by the depth, how deep the footprints were, how heavy and big these dinosaurs were. And some of them, most of these ones were theropods, so they walked on 2 legs. We didn't have ones like Mimmi that were walking on 4. And we can then work out how big the footprints were, how far apart they are, whether they were walking or they're running. So you can see the tiny footprints there, the little 3 toes, and then we've got a much bigger one in the middle there, and a medium-sized one. So we know that there's at least 4 species of dinosaurs and many from each group having a drink at the edge of this river. And then off in the distance, what did they hear? Roar of a predator.
Oh, excellent.
And then it scared everyone.
Oh.
And then everyone started running around, back and forth. Which way are we going?
Oh,
Going
Karen,
this way.
I'm scared, Karen. Oh, dear.
And they do think that at least one of these dinosaurs was lunch that got eaten. They're not 100% because, of course, they didn't have cameras. They couldn't take a photograph. But the footprints helped tell the story. And it looked like one of the dinosaurs got stuck in the mud by the riverbed. And because it got stuck, it was the one that became lunch. But by being able to tell the distance between the footprints, they were able to see them walking towards the edge of the river but running away. They've also got little footprints inside the big ones, so they know that the big dinosaur walked towards the river, and as the little ones were running away, there's a little footprint inside one of the bigger footprints as the small ones were fleeing. So by looking through the fossil record, we can learn so much about what was happening at a moment in time. The other reasons why we do lots of work with the botanical gardens as well is by looking at the plants and animals, we can recreate the whole environment, not just the animals or not just the plants. But one of the things we don't have here today that we did speak about this morning was the most common fossil found. So we've got trace fossils, like what we found in the Trackway and Winton, but we've also got another type of fossils that's not an actual bone of an animal, but it's something that's left behind. And it's something that every single animal does every day, or almost every day. Something that you eat, goes through your system and comes out the other end. Now, you're not usually allowed to yell this word out, and promise me you won't do it later, but I need you to have a little think about what it is. The most common fossil is fossil what? I want you to yell out nice and loud, it's fossil. Scats. Oh, well, that's much more polite than the words. I was going to get you to yell out poo. See, I just did it.
Oh, they did a good job though,
You
didn't they?
did an absolutely very good job. And it is. It's fossil poo or fossil. The technical term
Oh, that's more like it.
is scats. And scats is something that's left behind. But it gets even more scientific than that. The scientific name that we give fossil poo is called a coprolite.
Oh,
So a coprolite is the scientific name we give poo. I think it's funner to yell out poo. But what's really exciting about it is we can see what is inside that poo and work out what the animals have been eating. So if you're a marine animal, you may have fish or shells. But if you're a land animal, if you're a carnivore, you might have bones. You might have different size animal bones that we can then identify what they've been eating. But also if you're a herbivore, you will have different plants. And from those plant fibres and seeds, we can then recreate the entire environment. So it's called paleoecology and paleobotany, and it is really important. And that's why sharing all of the flora that's come from the gardens helps us recreate the environment from Winnie's time.
beautiful. Thank you. Oh, that's awesome. So we did get the river in our dinosaur garden, and we went on a big adventure, and that was really good. Did anyone have any other plants or things they wanted to add to their dinosaur garden?
A tree?
A tree. Yeah, so you might even want to add a Wollemi pine, for example, or a Carrie Pine. Oh, yeah, very good. Yeah. Anything else?
A fountain?
They were after plants.
What was that one?
A bit louder.
A fountain?
A fountain. Oh, okay. Yeah, lots of moving water. Oh, we're making a pretty fancy garden.
It is very
They wouldn't
nice.
have had fountains back then.
Could have had a waterfall.
Yeah, cool. Well, it's sounding like a beautiful
Fake people?
fake people. Yeah, well, I don't know if the people were around. That's the thing. Yeah, so you can visit your garden, but I think putting fake people in is not exactly how it was back then. Good try though. Good idea. Yeah.
Well,
Volcano?
oh, a volcano.
Oh, volcano. Oh, yeah, we can have those. Yeah.
Slightly dangerous garden.
Yeah, very dangerous garden.
I like it though. So just before we finish up, guys, I think it's time for you to ask both Mary and I some questions about Gondwana Garden, and then you can think about more about what you might want to create. You might want to do some drawings or get some photos off the internet and make a collage of your Gondwana Garden, and you could share them with us at a later stage, because I think you could do some amazing work.
Yeah.
And maybe even doing a little bit of a diorama of what, the Gondwana Garden with Winnie and some of the animals we've spoken about could look like too.
That'd be really good. And if you do get the app going, you can actually take a photo. And you can take a photo of yourself with the dinosaur.
That would be
I'd love to
amazing.
see that. So
We definitely
yeah,
would.
that'd be fun.
But let's spend the last 5 minutes with you guys asking us some questions about Gondwana Garden.
How many years has Gondwana been around?
Yeah, so that was 220 million years to about 165 million years. So, that's at least 60. Yeah, so a long time, 60 million years or so, yeah.
Because of plate tectonics, everything's moving all the time. So when Gondwana was kind of formed, it spent a while with certain continents together, and then some things were breaking up and moving apart. So it was constantly in motion.
Great question.
What's the biggest dinosaur dinosaur.
In Australia?
Yeah.
Yep. So one of the biggest dinosaurs in Australia is a titanosaur, which is a big sauropod called Matilda. And again, it was found up in these kind of areas in Queensland, up near Winton, and it was over 30 metres long. So imagine a dinosaur longer than your school bus, but a lot long with its neck and a lot taller that it could go as well. I think the one vertebrae of sort of that was about, you know, a size of a 30 centimetre ruler, and if not bigger, just one vertebrae from Matilda the titanosaur.
Oh, good question. Very interesting.
How many different species of dinosaurs were in Australia?
Ooh, well, you know, it's growing all the time. Australia has a big variety of dinosaurs. So we had things like the Muttaburrasaurus, Mimmi. We also had a Stegosaurus species, an Allosaurus species, lots of sauropods, but also lots of little dinosaurs. We had the lightning beast, which was probably the size of sort of a dog. We also had Winnie-Puss, or Winton-a-Puss, I should say.
Oh.
We've talked about the Australovenator, which is banjo, and I mentioned there are 6 new species of dinosaurs that have just been identified from Winton. So, you know, we're looking at in the hundreds, but we don't necessarily have lots of information about all of them. So we're finding new information all the time, and new species are being identified. So it's a growing thing. So being an Australian paleontologist is a pretty exciting time. So as you guys grow up, if you're interested and fascinated about the plants and animals of our ancient past, do lots of research and you could become a scientist as well. Another question there?
Nicola?
What's the smallest dinosaur?
Ooh, the smallest dinosaur. The smallest one in Australia, certainly from its footprints, is probably only like a big chicken size. So I don't know its species name, but certainly there was quite a lot of small dinosaurs. So what you tend to find is the majority of the dinosaurs are actually small, but it does mean it is actually harder to find because we don't always find the bones. Because if you're a little animal, often someone's going to be eating you. And so if you die, your bones are scavenged by larger predators, and it means that you don't find a lot left. So that's a little bit unfortunate for the little dinosaurs. Okay, I think we've got time for 2 more questions.
All right, that sounds great.
Olivia?
Is Winnie real?
Winnie is as real as you would like her to be. Certainly Winnie is a juvenile Muttaburrasaurus, and Muttaburrasaurus dinosaurs we have in the fossil record. Winnie itself, I don't like to ruin anything there. But Muttaburrasaurus dinosaurs are certainly real and in the fossil record.
Right up. Yeah.
What was the vicious dinosaur?
A vicious dinosaur? Well, that's a really hard thing to say. So some people would say that the carnivores, if they're eating you, are vicious dinosaurs. So certainly Banjo, the Australovenator, with its 10 centimetre claws, razor sharp teeth, would probably be quite dangerous. But you generally don't find as many of the big carnivores. You might find herds of mimmies, you know, being a little bit more dangerous, because if you ran into a herd of mimmies and they didn't want you to be there, they could trample you. And imagining, you know, the sight like a herd of cows coming straight forward. So they might not eat you, but they certainly could do you damage. With all of those spines running down the side, they could be quite dangerous. So it really depends. If a Muttaburrasaurus sat on me, I would not be coming away from that very well. I would certainly have some broken bones. So again, Muttaburrasaurus is a vegetarian, wouldn't be considered dangerous, could certainly, for people, do a lot of damage. But if you're talking about predators, you are looking at one of the Australovenator is certainly up there as one of the most dangerous predatory dinosaurs in Australia. But you would have had the Allosaurus. There's an Australian Allosaurus as well that would have been up there as well, and Giganotosaurus and those kinds of things. Okay, guys. What do you reckon? Sneak one more question?
Yeah, was there one more? Plant one?
You pick this later. Where's plant one? Spinosaurus found?
Where was the Spinosaurus found? I couldn't actually tell you. Spinosaurus wasn't found in Australia. North America, but I'm not sure exactly where. I actually have a feeling it was actually found in Asia as well. But that is a great research question to follow up on. Google Spinosaurus and distribution, or where was a Spinosaurus found, and it should come up with a really great distribution map of where Spinosaurus was actually located. Okay, guys.
We do have another
Oh, sorry?
plant one.
Oh, great.
Oh, a plant one. Okay.
How many plants were found in Australia? Ferns, I meant.
So how many plants are found in Australia? I would say lots, innumerable amounts, because there's still more to be discovered. Do you know that there was a plant in just a year ago that was found in the northern suburbs here in Sydney that no one had found before? And as I said, the Wollemi pine was found 20 years ago or so. So come and be a botanist and find some more for us, because new plants are getting identified all the time. And we need to preserve and look after what we've got, because plants are really important to our environment. Yeah, good question.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. Mary and I have had a fun time talking Gondwana Garden, and I think we'd really like to see some of the things that you can create for us and show us some diagrams or pictures of what you can create as a Gondwana Garden from some of the plants and animals that we've discussed with you today.
Yeah, that would be really fun.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Karen. And thank you to you.
So have a great day, everyone, at Young. See you later, everyone.
Bye.